This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, snakes and foxes? This is Steven, your host with Fantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friends, Josh and Jake, on, and we're talking about the end of Wheel of Time Season 3, specifically episodes 7 and 8, and then we'll kind of get into like overall season various thoughts. We'll see where this goes. We'll say no spoilers for any like book stuff past book 4, which is what was covered in Season 3. But I kind of want to maybe open it up to broader discussion towards the end. So if we get there, then we'll give you a warning, but we may talk about like entire series stuff.
Nice.
Awesome.
I got my fox here.
Yeah,
For
you're ready to
podcast
go.
listeners, my dog.
Man, I have
Fox
so many
adjacent.
thoughts when we get to that. So
Okay,
many
let's
thoughts.
start. Let's keep it kind of tight here with our review. Let's start with episode 7, and then we'll go 8, and then we'll just kind of open it up for whatever. So episode 7 was the Perrin episode. I think it's just called, like, the episode's titled Golden Eyes. Just in the Two Rivers the entire time. What'd you guys think?
One note I did really like that we got an episode that wasn't switching around to different flashbacks. That we or like not different flashbacks, but different character
Just-
perspectives. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that could be
I
something
mean,
that they
we
do.
did get episode 4. Same thing, just in Ruidian.
That's true, but I think that those are I think that episode 4 was probably the strongest episode of the season. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think it's definitely worth considering if we do get more seasons that they do less, flashing around and more contained episodes and storylines and stuff. I know that presents its own challenges with like um feeling like you haven't seen a character for a few episodes. And it's something that the books struggle with too, with sometimes flashing around too much or not seeing a character for a book or two and then seeing them again. So it's not an easy thing, but it's just
Mhm.
a note I wanted to point out.
I feel like honestly, uh, that was like a strength of the books for the most part, and then the show I haven't felt it be a negative at any point. But yeah, I think this plot line was nice to have like a solid amount of continuous story throughout. That's one thing you can do in a book a lot easier is, you can just keep going with it for as long as you need, whereas TV, you're constrained to episodes and what they can allow for. But I think overall episode 7 was it was good. It was above average for the Wheel of Time adaptation as a whole. There was I'm just disappointed with the budget they have or how they're able to use it with the Trollocs overall. But I think it was
You didn't think that the
I-
Trollocs looked good? I thought they looked good.
no. I
think-
I think the costuming looks really good. I think the CGI has never looked good for the Trollocs.
Yeah, I agree with Jake on this one. I think they look good when the camera's focusing on them. They look
Yeah.
kind of unique. They look kind of menacing. They're unlike other, orc creatures that we've seen in other fantasy shows. That's cool. But like, especially, the one that was fighting Aram, just kind of like prancing, leaping around. Like it looked weird. It looked awkward. And I mean, maybe some of them aren't quite as noticeable the way they move, but it, yeah, you just watch it and you're like, something is weird here.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine.
I mean,
didn't mind it.
part of it is like if you compare the CGI execution in this show to something like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones overall, it looks a lot better. I'm no like VFX artist, so I'm not sure. I know it's not just the amount of money, but like what you're trying to do. You're trying to do a lot more with the Trolloc than you are with the White Walkers in general. So I think it makes sense that the same amount of money going towards both, you're at a disadvantage already with the Trollocs. And this isn't like this isn't a criticism in my mind of like, oh my gosh, how could they massacre this? It's more just like disappointed that limitation is there. And I guess overall, that's my only real disappointment with this episode is this feels like such a huge epic thing in the book, but the show has its limitations due to production. And it felt a little too small for my liking. I remember having more nitpicks right up like during watching it. But now looking back after it's been a week or two, like overall, I think I was pretty satisfied, but just sad we couldn't see it as big and grand as it is in the books in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know if I am quite even as critical as that. I thought that the pacing of the episode was really well done. Like I was, I knew that pretty much everything would turn out all right, but even then, I felt like I was kind of on the edge of my seat a lot. And I think if you weren't a book reader, you would probably be a little bit more worried for Perrin and for even Fael and stuff. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was paced really well. I thought that overall things like made sense generally with the battle. Like I'm not, super into like military campaigns and everything, but like the fact that they had like the initial stop set up like in the canyon, that made sense. And then they retreated and had like the barricades outside the gates, and then they retreated to inside the gates, and then they had their escape plan. Like, I don't know, like there's a nice narrative that followed along that seemed like it made some tactical sense. Um,
I agree with that.
there was like some um character uh building with Perrin, but not so much that it took away from other parts of the episode, but like him, coming to terms with his wife's death. Like at least that feels a little bit, still like probably one of the worst things that the series has done, but like at least they had a little bit more reason behind it this episode, like kind of bookended it a little bit.
Yeah,
So
I feel like they stuck the landing surprisingly well for how poorly
yeah,
they started it.
you could. I just had the thought. I'm like, the sh some like writer or showrunner had this scene in his mind of Perrin like telling Fael to get behind him and to kill everything that like, and then to like be like, oh, he hasn't learned his lesson, and then saying like, and kill everything I missed, and like wanted that like to be like super super earned or something, or be super impactful, and then had the idea. It feels like from that to like have him have a wife that he kills or something. I don't know.
You think that was the impetus for it?
Maybe I don't know, but
I don't
or
think
maybe they
they're planning
or
out
maybe
that
they
far.
just or maybe they just use that as an opportunity to kind of close that arc of Perrin's story a little
That
bit.
that's how I view it, and I think they took that opportunity pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. I think that the episode flows really well. It contains all of the elements that you expect to have in a big epic fantasy battle. Like you have your different stages of the
mhm.
fight. You have kind of the ebbs and flows of like, oh, we're not doing very well. Oh, we've got our secret thing. Alana comes in and saves the day. Oh no, they took out Alana. What are we gonna do? We retreat back to the fortress. Okay, the fortress is looking good. Oh no, all of a sudden there's a surprise attack. The fortress is compromised. Now we're fighting for our lives. It looks like it's all gonna fall apart, and then something happens and we're kind of saved. So it has all of those elements, and I think it plays them out pretty well. The only things that bugged me, two main things. One was it there were parts where it felt a little bit like it was retreading stuff from season one. Like we've already seen a big Trolloc fight within, the same set, which like yes, I recognize the stakes are different and characters, like everything is different, but it still kind of feels like something we've seen on screen once before, and like typically like that's not done because we want everything to like seem unique. And the other thing was I thought that the last element that I listed off, which was like the surprise way in which we win, I didn't like this. I didn't like
Yeah,
that he like made this bargain with Fane. It just seemed like kind
yeah,
of a hand wavy thing, and they were saying like, well, we got to keep Fane alive, and he needs to be important, so we're gonna like have this bargain, but like why didn't he just kill him? Because killing him would have
yeah,
like also solved the problem.
You
And
think the orcs? You think the orcs would have just left, or not the orcs? The Trollocs would have just left.
Trellix, well, I mean, he basically concluded like someone is controlling the Trollocs. So
But there's a difference between being ordered for them to stop versus the person who is controlling them now killed, so now they're like completely left to rampage.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's fair. Like maybe
I don't
he
know.
thought that they were like engaged at this point, so there was no way to get him out of there unless the
It's
master
pretty
commanded him back. But
it's pretty established in the books that Fane pushed the Trollocs pretty hard, and he pushed even Myrddraal pretty hard, and that if he weren't there, they would have scattered sooner. In the same way that having a Myrddraal keeps Trollocs in better formation. So I think they easily could have written like they got rid of Fane and then the Trollocs retreated because they're cowards, you know. Not saying that that's exactly how it should have gone, but I agree with this. This was, I think, what the show was trying to do is show his arc of like uh, solving problems without violence, but then he also had the arc of accepting, like letting himself be violent when he needs to be. So like it was trying to, they're trying to show like he is like at peace with himself. Like he can not choose the violent route if he doesn't have to, but he can also choose a violent route if he does have to. I just think, which I get, like I think that's a decent arc. I think they could have done it without him making a deal with Fane. Like
yeah,
that seems like a bridge too far to,
it just seemed really convenient. Like, okay, this is the solution. We're going to do it. And I mean,
yeah,
it seemed like the more obvious solution was bringing the wolves. Like they had the
yeah.
wolves on the flag. The name of the episode is Golden Eyes. Like this is a big thing for Perrin. It hasn't, but the wolves have not been involved in this season at all. And so I kind of wonder, like, do viewers forget? Like people that haven't read
Well,
the books, like, do they
he talks
forget
about
that
it.
Perrin even has a thing with wolves? Like,
He
bring him
talks
in
about it
here.
like
This is perfect time.
an episode or two before, like when he's telling Fael that he's a wolf brother. And I thought that was setting up the wolves coming in for the battle. And I think again, this seems like it's a budget constraint.
Yeah.
Like we can't do everything. And I just think it
Could
would have been
be.
better to focus on the wolves than, but I don't know. Maybe it was just not possible to be done that way.
Yeah.
But I think that, yeah, because a lot
Wolves
of
killing Trollocs does sound expensive.
because the way they could have done it in terms of like the writing is in the books, like his violent arc is never, it's not like him being afraid of like going berserk. It's him being afraid of the wolf taking him over, you know, so they could have integrated the wolves in that storyline that same way, and this could have been his acceptance of being a wolf brother through mastering violence in that same way. So I think you could have had a similar arc purely based on writing, not taking into account but like production constraints, um, by having the wolf brotherness be central to his violence, conflict, and then solving it that way as well.
Hmm.
Also, I think I don't know, his and Fael relationship pretty quick. Not to
Yeah.
say the books are great with that anyway, but um yeah.
Perrin is probably my favorite character in the Wheel of Time, and the Fael thing I hated.
You
In
didn't like their relationship at all in the books?
the books, I came to accept it,
Most
but
people
then
don't. Like it's common to
yeah,
not like, yeah.
like
Yeah.
I came to it came from it. It went from me actively rooting for Fael to like be taken out or something to like being like, okay, well, whatever. But I like absolutely did not like the whole. I can't. I'm not gonna spoil any book stuff, but like the whole like
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah, they have
argument.
some relationship drama in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Anyway, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
Speaking of
definitely happens fast. I mean,
but
in the
I
books,
that is to say, I like it more in the show, I think, than I did in the books. I think that they have like more chemistry and like, I like the actress a lot for Fael.
I thought
Um,
they had decent chemistry up to this point in the books. I really liked
this
in
was
the
like
books.
the peak for
Yeah,
them.
this is
I
peak.
think in
Yeah.
the because it
Because
had started in the previous book when he goes
yeah.
through the Stone of Tear and saves her, and then their romance kind of reaches this point at the end of book four. So
And
yeah,
and like their relationship in book four is all about him like accepting her, like her trying to get him to accept his like destiny kind of, and him accepting like that she can do things on her own, which you kind of get here, but it's just done a lot better in the book because they're at a different place in their relationship, in my opinion. So like this is kind of a mix of their relationship in book three with book four plot points. So
Mm.
kind of hard to compare. But yeah, I'd say this is like peak of their relationship in Wheel of Time in book four. Um, yeah, but I think that the actress did a decent job. I wonder where I thought they were going to do something with Lord Luke as well in the
That's what I
season
was just
last
about to bring
episode
up.
or
Yeah,
this episode.
they
Yeah,
they introduced him, but they could have easily cut him. Like if you're talking about
yeah,
thing, we know we have a lot to cut from the series. I would think Lord Luke is like on the docket for being cut. It's kind of it's a minor plot line that I mean it gets
yeah.
more important. Well, okay, maybe that's not fair. It gets more important later on,
It
but
does.
it
Yeah,
seems like what they've decided to do is like tremendously jump his plot line forward anyway, since he leaves with the White Cloaks at the end of like he surrenders himself, which I mean, I kind of it happens much later in the book series, we'll say for now. So it seems like they're skipping a lot of stuff, and I don't know, maybe Lord Luke part, like all of that stuff could have been skipped.
I'm always I'm always surprised at what they decide to keep and what not to keep. Like I was pleasantly surprised they kept the Amaram plot line in this, which
And
um
Meram meaning
oh my God, Aram.
Aram?
Oh my,
Aram?
oh man,
Amaram.
Aram. Yeah.
One more syllable.
I,
Yeah.
I would I was like I know I miss a lot in the books, but I feel like I would have made the connection between like Wheel of Time and
Yeah.
Stormlight earlier.
Hey
So
man, it's the Vorin, it's the doctrinally correct Vorin
okay.
form of Aram is
Yeah.
Amaram.
Yeah, there you go.
Um uh but Aram's arc, which I always liked in the book because you see that same story play out in the Age of Legend, or not the Age of Legends, but in the Iridium flashbacks of how the Aiel first became like the Aiel in the Waste, and you
Hmm.
see Aram go through like the same arc basically, and so it's cool to see that parallel in the book, and so I was pleasantly surprised they kept that in. But also I wonder what kind of payoff we'll get with that later on in the series, like
Yeah.
because you do have to pick what things to cut, and so when you choose to not cut something, I'm
Hmm.
curious where they're going to go with it, but.
Seems like they've scattered a lot of pieces here with
Mhm.
where they landed everyone. And I'll be interested to see what their plan is and kind of cobbling back together a story. It seems like their plan for Parent at least is to combine several different books that happen in like different times and bring it together into like a through line that makes sense on TV.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
I don't know how I feel about the White Cloak ending with him. Just because I don't know, I don't understand what all, like, are they just cutting his arc
Yeah.
up to that point, or are they mixing things around like they are with the Stone
They've
of
got
Tear?
it. They've got to be mixing things around because if they jump ahead to that point, he would be so much further into the series than any other character
Anyone
just
else?
wouldn't. Yeah.
Or I mean, maybe season four, or maybe they're only going to season five, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of gets it a larger discussion, which we'll
yeah.
which we'll do afterwards. But yeah, the other part of episode 7 we didn't mention was Loyal, Bane, and Chayad, their little quest to close the Waygate, and then Loyal dies.
Does he though? They faked us out. They
No,
faked us out with his
he's
death.
gotta be dead this time. They had the little like dramatic reading of the book thing afterwards. Like that was the
Yeah.
tribute to the guy who just died.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have to be I would be shocked um if
I
he was
mean,
not dead at this
he
point.
got stabbed with the dagger at the end of season one, didn't he?
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
It
an
seemed
instant death in the books. So
okay. To be fair, it seems like they were planning on writing him out of the show. Like they've always not had a big plan for Lyle on the show, and they were going to do it then. And then there was such a big backlash that they were like, "Oh crap, we can't do it," and so they resurrected him. But they,
I think I think his death at the end of season one was more due to them like, oh shoot, COVID, and the Matt actor left. Like, what are we gonna do for this finale? And then they just threw that in for the finale, and I just assumed it was due to that, and they didn't know what to do. But maybe, yeah, maybe they've been trying to write him off this whole time. What
he just won't die.
he just won't die. That's why I'm like kind of hopes he comes back and they know what to do with him. But it's probably also like he's not doing much with the plot. He costs a lot to make.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's more of it. Yeah, like they could not
If
have him in the show, but also, yeah,
if
it's an
that's the
expensive
case,
spectacle.
yeah, if that's the case, like was it worth having him up to this point? I don't know. They just never really utilized him well. But
I don't know. I enjoyed
it's
watching him.
disappointing.
I thought it was fun watching him bash some Trollocs in and stuff. It was cool.
Yeah, I just mean like to get your hopes up to just be disappointed anyways.
Yeah, I mean your Discord name is Elder Hammond, so I think we
Yeah, Elder
yeah.
Hammond would be displeased. He'd be like, these showrunners are too hasty.
I mean, I definitely agree that they never knew what to do with him, and so they
Yeah.
finally like got to a point where they're like, we got to write him off somehow, and like, here you go, have him do this.
Be
Kind of felt
gone.
like maybe he could have bashed in the floor and then jumped through the portal before it
Yeah.
closed, and like, but I don't know, he's not very agile, so maybe he tried
I'll
and got a nat one on his agility check or
Yeah.
something.
I'll give you a Fantology guarantee right
Ooh,
now. You guys
Yeah,
ready?
okay.
let's, yeah, we like these.
Off screen, he finds a portal stone within the ways, and using his Ogier knowledge, is able to portal stone away. And so he will come back
Like
at
as he's
the
falling, he goes
most
through a portal.
opportune moment
Okay.
later on in the series.
Yeah, that would be
In the
cool.
t in the TV show, this is not real.
No, I'm
This is
saying
not
this
a.
is what's going to happen. This is a
This.
guarantee for what will happen.
Oh man, that's a bad guarantee, dude.
It's a Fantology guarantee.
Okay, it's in the name,
Never
huh?
wrong. Never wrong.
Never wrong. There is a turning of the wheel where that happens.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, there's one turning somewhere. Okay, that's episode seven. Let's move on to episode eight. So this one, unlike episode seven, had a lot of
Yeah.
different characters, jumped around quite a bit. And for me, that made it kind of a weak finale. I just felt like it was inevitable that this was going to happen, where the finale felt rushed because there was so much ground they had to cover, and th that's my issue with the finale. I thought like the individual stuff, like there wasn't any one thing that I'm going to point to and be like that was weak or that was bad. But I just felt like the sum of all of these things coming together in one 70-minute episode, like they needed two more episodes to really make this a great season. I mean, I'll say
Yeah.
I did like this season. Like I would say overall, the season is like bordering on great. I think it was like really good TV.
Hints of greatness.
Yeah, hints of greatness. There you go.
Concepts of greatness.
Yeah, but they needed
That's
10 episodes to really get there for me.
yeah, I think you can do a compelling finale with these multiple plot lines coming together at the same time, but the pacing has to be so much faster in that finale. Like so much of the Tanchico stuff, maybe it was mo supposed to feel like very suspenseful in every scene, but it felt kind of like they're just meandering, and then there would be an action point, and then they're meandering again, and then there'd be some action. Whereas, like maybe they should have already been in the palace partway through episode seven, or partway through whatever the previous episode was for them, and then in the finale, it's just the action part there. Because you could write good TV where you're like you're going from this tense moment in Tanchico to a tense moment with Swan and Elida to a tense moment and the waste. You know what I mean? Like back to back to back. But instead it felt like every time they switched, it'd be like a reset of the pacing a little bit.
I mean, yeah, but I liked the previous episode when they were in Tenchico. Like, I thought that was pretty good, where they had some time to like let the characters do
Oh,
some just kind of like natural stuff, and they had the bar
I
scene,
think
and then they
no, I think
had,
Steve,
that's
they
good.
were,
Steven
yeah,
likes the hills of Chanchico.
Big
yeah, for
fan.
sure. But and then they were hypnotized by Mogideon and like all the like I thought that episode was really good. So if you're saying that in order for the show to land better, that we have to sacrifice some of that stuff and like make that faster as well, and
No,
then
that's not
we'll
what
be
I'm
able to.
No, I'm saying in order for a finale to have multiple points of view, like in multiple plot points or plot threads, like this one did, that it has to maintain that like ramping pacing the whole time. So to your point, they probably needed another episode to get them to where the finale is just pure,
Mm.
uh, high intense pacing. I think that was the main issue. Is just there was too much of the plot in this finale episode that wasn't very
So
suspenseful
here,
to watch,
okay,
and you're
here's
switching
my
back and forth between, yeah.
hot take. Obviously, more episodes would be better. That's not my hot take, but I think that I like the episodes being longer and having like if we're just going by minute count, like I think that there's a world, Jake, in which we do get like 9 episodes, but basically the same amount of on-screen minutes, and like the last like three or the last 2 episodes are just basically cut into 3 episodes and they're each 45 minutes. I'm not sure if the math like exactly works out on that, but I think it probably does, instead of being like 60 to 70 minutes each. And I don't know if the show would be better for that. Granted, you would have like a more compelling, I think that would make for a
Yeah,
more
yeah, I
compelling
agree. I
finale.
wouldn't want that.
But I think that it's fine if you have a 70-minute basically movie to have some slow points in there. If you just think about it as like a season finale, you want everything to be fast. I get that, but like, you know, 70
Yeah, I'm
minutes.
purely
Yeah.
I agree. I don't want him to just I don't want him to take the same stuff and just cut it differently. I'm saying just for a finale specifically, and that's like I'm talking contextually about a finale. Like you need that pacing to be
But
faster if you're
I,
switching between plot lines like
well, I don't
that.
even know if you do. If you have a 70-minute long finale, I don't know if I want 70 minutes of pure fast pace. There's a world in which it would work really well, but like I think you risk just like becoming basically like, like Die Hard or something if you do that.
I don't know. I think it would have been a lot better than like the rushed version we got.
I just think they had to close up three different major
Yeah.
stories here, and there was a lot of plot to cover in each of them.
Mhm.
And so, no matter how many we got 70 minutes, even if it was not, I feel like we just need one more 70-minute episode and let's
Yeah.
let's basically double the minute count for all this because I think the show has been at its best when it has the time it needs to like really kind of like let the viewer soak it in, be part of the world, like allow for more nuanced moments like we talked about in one of our earlier reviews. Like that stuff is all really good, but when it's just like so rapid, we only have this many minutes, we've got to do all of these things, and it's just like pulling you along. It's just it it's not as enjoyable to watch. I don't know, like for me as the viewer, I just get this sense that they're just kind of like going through check boxes.
Yeah. I guess what I was mostly addressing the issue of so many like multiple plot lines in a finale and how that made the finale feel rushed because you had to wrap up these different plot lines. And I think it's because each individual plot line didn't feel uh super captivating throughout their whole runtime in this episode. Um and so it felt like okay, things are developing and then all of a sudden it's over for me. That's how it felt rather than like things are escalating the whole like if you have 20 minutes per plot line, ideally
Mm.
those 20 minutes, the whole 20 minutes for each plot line would feel very engaging and suspenseful, and then when you do switch to the next one, you're like wanting to go back to the last one while still being engaged in this next one. I think that's what the books do really well, and it's obviously completely different writing in the book for this, but what I feel like happened in this episode was instead it's like this 20 minutes of like we're giving it space to grow and then it ends all of a sudden. And so it didn't feel like as epic and engaging for me. But
I'll give them points for having some nice moments where they were able to tie in the end of the White Tower plotline with what was happening in the Waste, like through kind of the parallel of
yeah,
Swan and Moraine, like happening at the same time. Like I think
yeah,
that
that's
was
good.
well done. Stuff like that, makes it feel more cohesive, right?
Yeah,
But I don't think they ever really got Chico to that same level. Like there was the
yeah.
connection between, literally opposite sides of the entirety of the world here. It just was never really there. And I don't know, do we need a full episode of Tenchiko? Kind of maybe that might be a little bit of overkill, but
Also the Tenchiko, like the conclusion with Rand's felt pretty epic because you had the fight with Lanfear and his like what's gonna happen with Kuladen and Aiel. And then the showdown with Elida felt epic because there's this coup and then she ends up dead. Um, but the finale with in Tenchiko, it didn't feel like there was anything at that same level of stakes. Like it was a really powerful moment when Nynaeve, I assume this is her overcoming her block.
mhm.
It seems like it's replicating that. That was a really cool character moment for her, but it didn't feel like a finale moment of the same caliber. And so you have that, and then you have the use of balefire, which was cool, but it wasn't like a finale use of balefire. You'd expect more like a competing Kamehameha blast or something like that from Dragon Ball Z at the end, rather than just like I used this once. So if there was more of like a back and forth with the balefire, something more of like an epic battle there, I think it would be more on par with the other two plot lines.
And Leandrin just kind of gets like there's no ultimate resolution with Leandrin or Mogideon, who
Yeah.
are kind of like the
Yeah,
two enemies at that location.
you just skip to them on the boat leaving. Have you seen the theory that Leandrin took the wrong collar and they that's why they skipped to the boat because secretly Nynaeve gave her the wrong collar?
Oh yeah, that when she gave her the bag, I assumed it was going to be, the old false bag trick,
Yeah. I thought it was going to be
but
something
I
like
forgot about that
that,
until now. Hmm.
but they don't like address it again. And I feel like if that was the case,
Then they would
it'd
have
make
showed
more
the empty
sense
bag or something.
to like give
Yeah.
some sort of like on-screen hint for that. But if it's not the case, you'd also expect them to be like, shoot, they got it, but instead like they just leave. Like there's not really
Mm.
it didn't feel like a conclusion there.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, while we're there, well, I guess there was, another detail. It seemed like they set up a lot of things here rather
Yeah.
than like concluding too much. The collar thing obviously is set up for a scene that happens much later in the series. The Leandrin saying she wants to become a Forsaken seems like
Yeah.
she might be replacing a different character also a little bit later in the series. Nynaeve's scene, what like you said, it was kind of a replication of something else. So a lot of things that we like thought we'd see, but it's seeing in different ways. And like I don't have an issue with that because at least they're kind of, staying true to the spirit of what happens
Yeah.
in the series. Lord Gabriel was outed, and I
That
thought that was
was
maybe a little cheesy, like, oh,
that was not done well.
we're in this fight. Oh, like let's have this
Yeah.
conversation and like, oh, let me just tell you without any real deep thought into
Yeah.
this, that's got to be a Forsaken. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was bad. They tried to fit too much in that space and the like
Because,
it
but
was
the thing,
it was
like,
unbelievable exposition there.
the audience already knows he's a Forsaken. Like, why did they have to do this? Like,
Yeah, they
Elaine could
could
figure it out at any point
yeah.
in future seasons, and have it be more impactful.
Yeah, all Tom had to do is cast out like, oh, like I'd never heard of a Gabriel, and Elaine could have been like, oh no, he was definitely there. And like obviously, like you said, the audience knows, well, does because he's a Forsaken and he's doing this compulsion thing that we've seen done.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, let that build out later. That was weird to like throw that in, especially during a fire battle like that.
Yeah,
Like that was a weird moment to be like,
Yeah.
it was.
this
It
is
was a
really
little,
Yeah.
important. Really
little bit
important you know
strange.
this. Yeah.
At least they
Um,
did, as you requested, Jake, they did kind of build in the Tom backstory.
yeah, they did. And I have hopes that he continues. I thought they might kill him off again in this episode, honestly. But mostly because of what they did to Loyal in the last one. I'm like, wait, are they just bringing him back to kill him? I don't know.
Someone
But
told us in comments on one of our videos that the actor was unavailable for season 2, and that went
uh,
into what happened there.
interesting. Which,
So
yeah,
there's
that
that.
unfortunately, that's what happens when you have such a large cast.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Matt.
I, well, before we get to Matt, I will say like
Yeah.
in so we're doing book 4 spoilers, and book 4, Nynaeve doesn't confront Leandrin, she confronts Mogideon, and there you do get that more of an. It's not epic on the same level of like things exploding the same as you or like the level of violence, but there's this huge contest of will where Nynaeve like beats a Forsaken, and it's this huge moment that like sparks other plot lines, but also is like this really intense moment. And I think that is on par with the level of intensity of the other concluding arcs at the end of that book. Um, and I wonder if they would have done that instead of her confronting Leandrin, or have the confrontation be more of like a battle like it was in the books,
Mm,
if we would have felt that same satisfaction with it. But
they decided Forsaken are not as expendable as they are in the books because they've reduced the number and
I
they've
mean,
reduced like the number that they're introducing. But yeah, you're about to say they just killed Samael.
or did they? Like, I've seen another theory that it's like, oh, she was trying to kill him, but he'll just be back next time. Or maybe they're tying in the theory or the a plot line in the books of how that has to do with the turning, has to do with the Dark One's hold over souls, to not go into any
Yeah.
spoilers.
Yeah,
Maybe they do something like
they
that.
have not done that yet in the show, but Rafe
Maybe
did
that's
hint
what,
at something like
yeah,
that in an interview.
maybe that's what Mogideon was getting at with,
Yeah.
I want to figure out how to kill Forsaken. Interesting that the Forsaken don't know how to use Balefire. Um, in this. It's seemingly right.
Do they say they don't?
Didn't they say like Mogideon like maybe it's just one of the Black Aja who said they could challenge a Forsaken with the rod that makes Balefire. I don't know. Something about them talking about that rod made me think that
Mhm.
Balefire was less known amongst the Forsaken, but I could be mistaken on that. Anyways, yeah, let's get to Matt with
Yeah.
the
Okay, Josh, your opinion on Matt and the red door frame and the eel fin.
You know what? I loved
Josh
it.
loved it.
I'm just gonna say, they full send. They leaned into it. They they leaned into the weirdness. Did it look a little strange? Yeah, yeah, it did. Was it entirely
I'm
book
really
accurate? No.
I would not
Um,
have guessed that you loved it, man.
yeah,
That's
whatever.
some sarcasm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Slash S. I don't know, man. Like,
Uh,
I think for sure, like, I can probably guess your guys' criticisms too. But I thought it was fun. I think I had talked last episode, or maybe the one we did, the first episode of the Wheel of Time, but how, I like how they lean into like the kind of magic. They don't shy away from it. They, lean
yeah,
into these kind of weird, campy things.
yeah.
And
I'm glad
you
they
know,
did it
and
for sure.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't think they were
Oh,
going to do
yeah.
it. I did not think they were going to do it at all at the beginning of the season. And there were enough things where I kind of like slowly started to believe that maybe they would. And so I'm glad they did.
Okay, so let's
I,
hear the
I
criticisms.
I'll surprise you, Josh. I also agree. I'm glad they did it, and I think like 90% was done super well. I think they nailed the eeriness of it.
Hmm.
Like um like the franticness that in the book when Matt does this, he's not sure what's happening, you know what I mean? And like it feels very like, wait, this is really intense, but I don't understand what's happening, but I know there's like dire consequences here somehow. I think they really did that. Like every time the eelfin spoke, it was like it was as eerie and unsettling as I would want it to be. So I think they nailed that. I just don't understand. It's like the same with the horn. Like it's not that they didn't execute on it well. Like if you're trying to make a fox furry, they did a really good job, but like why would you want to make a fox furry? I just
What
don't
what
that
what else like how do you make it look what else would you make it look like?
they're just described as slightly fox-like. Like something about them reminded him of foxes. It's not like they were fox people in that way. And
It
so
it looked like an AI generated image of a fox man. Like
it
it was
it
just like
looked like a
so garish.
yeah. And like I said, I think the effects were done pretty well, honestly. To me, it was more the art design. Just like it's like someone was said, draw this, and they drew it masterfully. But why were you listening to that person who said draw this? Like there's other things you could have done. Like they could have, I don't know. It what the description of them is more vague in that there's not like a clear like this is how they look like a fox. And so maybe that was the reason why it was just like we're going to make it clear that these are foxes, and if we see the Aelfin, make it clear what they look like. Like maybe that's what they're going for, but I feel like they could have done it in a different way that just looked better in terms of design. But that's my criticism of it. But I think the scene itself was done really well.
I'm bringing up the picture to look at it again just to make sure that my memory
When
is not.
Kaysen shared that image before I had seen the episode, and I was like, "What is he? Why is he sharing this on this channel?" I had no idea like why that image was in that
It was
channel.
spoiled. Yeah, it was spoiled for me too. That
Channel's called
image.
the channel's called Wheel of Time. You couldn't put it together?
I didn't know. Like I it was just that image, and I was like, "Oh, why did Kaysen post this on this channel?" Literally, it didn't even spoil it for me because I was so did
Well,
not understand what it
I
was.
immediately got what it was. How did you not get what it was?
Um, be because it was a picture of a furry fox man with a He-Man looking GIF next to it, so I didn't understand what any of that was.
Posted
Um,
in a wheel of in a channel called Wheel of Time.
because that is not how they're described. So that's not what I envision when I'm thinking of the eelfin.
Okay, to be fair, okay, I'm scrolling through fan art. I did a before 2025 like modifier to the search. And like
Hmm.
there's a lot of fan art that looks kind of like that.
Well, let's look at what the how the book describes them, and maybe I'm way off course here.
Let's probably
We
move
don't have
on
to.
entirely because
I think it's a valid
we're
criticism.
already low on time. People are probably tired of
Yeah.
this back and forth at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. But like I said, I thought the scene was done really well.
I
Um,
Yeah.
I think it would be cool if they had a little more time, and obviously they didn't. We already talked about that.
yeah.
If they could have spent a little more time with him, kind of like journeying through and it being like super eerie, like maybe a jump scare or two, or like something to just like, other than just like you show up in this place and you
Maybe I
immediately
don't know.
like,
I kind of liked how it was like that though. Like
Yeah,
you
I
just
liked
it's like immediately thrown into like this bargaining situation that
same.
feels like it has yeah.
I liked it.
I was watching Lauren's breakdown. I only got halfway through it before we jumped on the call, but he pointed out how like the skin, like it really does look like the
Yeah, there's
costume
like
of skin and
noses
like
and
yeah, like
faces.
piercings and nose. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's creepy and well done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 80% of the time they nail the costuming and that kind of stuff, and then 20% of the time like that just the decision to make it a furry, the horn of Valir design, and then the Foxhead medallion I didn't like, but that's a nitpick. But like 20% of the time, I'm just like, oh, what? How did this make it past?
I will say, it always seems like they take big swings. It seems like they're
They
going
do,
for
yeah,
a home run every time, and like
yeah.
sometimes I do
Yeah,
agree that it's like,
And
I
oh,
I think
appreciate I
this
appreciate that.
I
I
do
think the
too. I
CGI
think
was done well on it. Like I think it looked like fur, it didn't look like a cartoon guy to me, but
Yeah. Okay.
um
With our
I
last
was
few minutes here, let's switch over to the
yeah, okay.
Karakarn
yeah,
finale here. So Lanfear and Moraine and Lan kind of get into it, and Rand calls down Rain. There's a lot of like Dune-esque vibes here, which is not
Yeah.
meant to be, a secret by any means. But I thought this was like a satisfying end to everything. And I really liked, the final imagery of Rand like seemingly starting to go mad, and like they've done a good job with
Yeah.
when he channels to show how dark it is, and Egwene's like horror at the situation. Like I think this is pointing us into a really cool direction. And so like I don't have any big quibbles with anything they did here in this last
yeah,
episode over in the waste.
My only quibble there is I feel like they didn't really know what to do with Rand and Lanfear's relationship if you're looking at it as a full season arc. Like, was he supposed to have been playing her, or did he really, like, after seeing the Age of Legends, was that when he was like, oh, she's actually a bad person? Or was it when he found out she was hurting Egwene?
Hmm.
I don't understand, like, when they do the dream capture scene, or the attempted dream capture scene, which I thought was cool. I just if you're looking at his full relationship with Lanfear this season, I didn't really understand uh what happened there. But other than that, yeah, I think it was done pretty well. I like that they're obviously, again, like the scale isn't as big as it was in the books, but I liked the conflict with Culloden. I liked how they are using the like Lanfear is like a jaded lover arc, which is like a thing in the books, and they're bringing it in a little earlier, and maybe not earlier, but they're emphasizing it more with the Culloden stuff. And I do like, I think in the first three books, the madness arc for Rand was inconsistent in its progression, and I think they are
Yeah.
doing a more
In book
consistent,
two, in book two, he's going
yeah,
crazy dark in some
or book
scenes, and
three.
then
Oh yeah, maybe book two as well.
oh no, okay, sorry. Yeah, the scene I'm thinking is book three. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, book three, which I wonder if Robert Jordan was like, I'm gonna write one more book, and so I need to. But
Yeah.
so I like how they're. I agree with you. I like how it's being more consistently progressing in that plot line. Um, yeah, it's really just the Lanfear breakup thing. I don't like.
Mm.
I think that was done better in the books at in this instance where you knew Rand was using her at this point, and he was walking this really fine line of doing what he could to get things he needed from Lanfear while also preventing her from doing more harm elsewhere or to himself. The book does a really good job of showing that pressure on him of like, I need to maintain all of this web of influence and manipulation on top of me in a way where he's more in control. And this book especially is like emphasizes that with his relationship with Moraine and Lanfear and everything. But yeah, I'm excited to see the conflict with the Aiel and him like telling their past history, and hopefully we'll see some cool Shido stuff in the next seasons.
Josh, is Moraine alive?
I mean, she. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I think it's pretty obvious that she stays alive in the here, right? I don't think that we're even meant to question it that much.
I think so. I mean, you do question it in that she was
She got
really
stabbed.
seriously
She got
injured,
stabbed.
but
We saw Alana get impaled like
yeah,
through the
that would be
chest.
my
They
that would be
they
my point for sure.
Yeah, but Alana had the Cawthon sisters there on beck and call.
Well, Rand is there. I mean, we're not
Well,
I
she's
know
sure.
Rand,
got all the
Egwene,
wise
the
ones.
wise ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Come on.
Alana got pincushion too many times in this season, I'll
She did.
say.
she did.
It was overused.
Well, it's twice back to back. It was a
Yeah.
little much. Yeah.
Front, no, front to back, Stephen. Um,
There you go.
or back to front. I don't know. So we can't talk about spoilers,
I
but
yeah.
I'm really interested to see how they do this. You know,
Yeah. I'm disappointed it's not as accurate to the book right here,
but
specifically with Moraine and
is that
Lanfear.
just is this just because they need to condense so much? I honestly think I kind of talked about this, how they might just skip that whole part of the series.
The Tower of Genji
Well, just like,
or
yeah, well, I mean, you
All of
can't
those books in be like
not necessarily all of those books, but like I'm sure there'll still have some events from those books, but like
mm,
not
that whole.
okay.
Okay, sure.
I guess we can do book for spoilers, but
yeah.
Yeah, but
in the
we're not gonna have time
yeah,
to do
okay,
the previously
yes,
planned.
sorry,
Like let's say this: if the show gets renewed for season four, we will do an episode where we talk about
Yeah.
okay,
like each of our that'd be a fun episode. We each like
Yeah.
write the last two seasons, maybe three,
Well, that's
of the
kind of what
Wheel
we
of
did
Time.
when this trailer came out. Like we were like, what are they going to do
yeah.
in this season onwards?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I think if we go back and
Um,
watch, I think I'll have gotten the most predictions right on that one, honestly.
did you hear my guarantee today though?
I did, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that guarantee.
that's why we have a lot of confidence in your prediction, Jake.
No, I nailed my predictions for this season. Which we were in alignment, Josh, with Tanchico being with the door frame, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Hmm, nice call.
Well, it was Josh's idea I agreed with, so I'll take credit.
Okay, fair enough.
Um,
What about Swan? Last point here before
yeah.
we end, but what about Swan dying?
Like,
I'm
yeah,
not a huge fan of that because that is cutting
yeah.
off a big arc. Well, a big part of a big arc and potentially,
I think it's okay
One of
though.
my favorite. I did.
yeah,
It depends on if they completely cut out that arc for the other character in question.
they won't do
No,
that. They're not going to do
that
that.
not possible. They've already hinted. I mean, they've hinted several times
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
at
their
that
only
kind of
arc.
destiny.
Yeah.
yeah. That's true.
Or
Yeah.
not their only arc, but it is like their main, like,
I think Swan's future role in the books is all replaceable stuff.
I kind of agree with that. I hate to agree with that, but I kind of do. And I also think that if they want to get to the end, they are going to have to like cut down the cast of characters a little bit, you know, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
right.
I
As
kind of feel
future
like,
books went on, the plot went wider and wider. That's like a death kill to the series if they try to do that.
yeah.
I hate what they've done with Men's character a lot. Like, I feel like she's also in a similar space where she's like, they don't know what to do with her.
Yeah,
And,
agreed.
They just kind of make her a buddy to Matt a little bit, and
But
that's
even
not the
Matt, like
greatest of
yeah,
a
Matt
character.
hasn't done anything
his,
like important other than blowing the horn.
yeah,
Other than blowing the horn,
yeah.
like he hasn't really done anything. And
He didn't even help, like, he didn't even really help in Tanchico in a good way. Like, he had his own moment, which I thought was a well done scene with the eel fin, but I don't like how when he left, it like left on this like ominous like hint of like, oh no, like he can't remember anything now. Like, it's like, where are they going with that?
yeah,
And like he didn't do
it's
anything to help them in Tanchico. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's kind of
Well,
reversed
he did
from
find the band, but he just kind of, you know,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it was like we found it.
He talked to a guy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's not like he was crucial to being there.
right.
He found it to the same degree that it was Jake's idea that the door frame be in Tenchiko.
Well, I feel like he could have like that Tanchico thing could have the door frame could have just happened in Rudian. You know what I mean? He did as much in Tanchico as he does in the book for
And Meridian.
in Rudian, you know?
That's
Yeah,
true.
he would have just been a distraction in Rodian from the Rand Egwene plotline. I mean, mostly the Rand plotline, honestly.
Which I mean,
Yeah.
he kind of was just a distraction from the
Nynaeve.
Tanchico plotline.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it would have
Well,
been
I
the
mean,
same.
that's
And
where
then, but if they had done
that's
that, then we could have got the book ending for Moraine and Lanfear, which
hmm,
I'm bummed, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if season three, if season four happens, if the show is greenlit for more, we're doing a special episode
Uh,
to we each have to like write a few plot points of, and that'll be full book spoilers. How do we get to the end?
yeah,
That'll
I
be
will
fun.
say, yeah,
that'd
yeah,
be
I will
really
say,
fun.
I know we got to get off, but I will say that I am shocked that we haven't heard either way about it being renewed or not. I kind of would have figured that they would have, like let us down on canceling it if they knew that they were going to cancel it. And they should have a good idea now if season three was successful enough. Maybe they want to see how many people trickle through and keep watching it, but just
I mean,
Does
interesting.
seem
season,
like, yeah, they need to decide. I mean, if season four is gonna happen, we got to get going on it. Like, we got to
Yeah.
get
and,
to do all the million things that has to have to happen.
and season
So,
three has been the most successful by any metric, like by like critic score, by
I don't know if we
viewership.
have, I don't know that we have any idea what the viewership numbers are.
Wasn't it like the seventh most watched show the week of the finale on TV during that week? I thought I saw something that said that, and it was like it was higher, had higher viewership than, or maybe it just had higher ratings than any
It,
show
I
since
mean,
fantasy show since
yeah,
Game of Thrones season four. That's what
as
they're
I've s-
posting.
as I've
That's what
said
Rafe's
before,
posting.
I I work for a company that does broadcast analytics, so maybe I can figure this out for us, but I still don't know how to actually get to that data.
Yeah, Rafe posted something about it being the seventh most watched show the week of the
Okay,
finale, but I don't
okay.
know. I don't know what metric they're using. I don't know how they're calculating that. But anyways, I'm gonna say like this is the best season they've had so far. So if you're gonna renew this, like there's no indication not to.
yeah, it just seems
Um,
like why haven't they capitalized on like the buzz, you know?
I don't. I feel like wasn't it for season three? Didn't they renew like pretty last minute too? Like I wonder if that's just how Amazon works with its renewals. It's just like
Hmm.
Hmm.
they're pretty last minute with it.
Well, don't
All
know.
right.
But if you want to talk to us more and you like what we're doing in Phantology, you can join our Discord. Invites are in the episode description below. And until next time, snakes and foxes, no matter how strange you may look, or how much Josh may love you. See you later.
Yeah.
See ya.